How much do we love the corrupt corporate legacy media? They had quite the weekend and woke up this morning saying, hold on, hold on, hold on. Wait, Trump's serious about enforcing the law? Trump's serious even if it means going after John Bolton? John Bolton, our favorite guy in the world, yeah, he's serious. And they're freaking out about it right now. They're so desperate, they featured Adam Schiff to make the case this weekend. Yeah, that guy. And, well, he's in trouble too. We're going to show you all that video, as we always do, coming up in just a second. And we've got breaking news on our favorite Maryland man, Guillermo Abrego Garcia. Better start learning Ugandanese or whatever else they speak over there. We'll give you all the details on that and the big rally of support for Guillermo Abrego. Is it wrong that his name is Kilmore? I don't think, if you're an MS-13 gang member, I guess that makes sense. But dude, you can do better than kill more, right? Yikes. All right. Also, Democrats are very upset that Trump is enforcing the law, and the repercussions are horrible. Do you realize what's been going on since Trump started cracking down on crime in Washington, D.C.? There's like nobody getting murdered. This will not stand. Democrats and the media all over it, and we got Westmore in a doozy of a lie. All that and a whole lot more coming up right now. We're brought to you by Birch Gold. My name is Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. We would love for you to subscribe to this channel wherever you're watching us right now. And can I just ask an extra pitch here for you? I know you like our show, and I know that you keep coming back for it, and we love you for that. And you may already be a subscriber here on whatever video platform you're watching. Could you just swing over to Apple Podcasts and give us a listen and a subscribe there? Just subscribe. Subscribe, give us a rating, give us a review. You have no idea how important that is in the business that we're in. Do that over on Apple Podcasts, over on Spotify, and I'll buy you lunch. I'm not going to buy you lunch. Thank you for subscribing, though. Is the continued divide between Trump and the Federal Reserve putting us behind the curve again? Right? We saw Jerome Powell go out last week. No idea exactly what he's going to do next. Trump's threatening, and we got other problems with the Board of Governors at the Federal Reserve. It's a mess, and it can affect you. The Fed might take the right action at the right time, or it's already too late to take the right action. We could be looking at another economic slowdown because of them. And what does it mean for your savings? Consider diversifying with gold through Birch Gold Group. For decades, gold has been viewed by many as a safe haven in times of economic stagnation, global uncertainty, high inflation. Sound familiar? Birch Gold's going to make it incredibly easy for you to diversify some of your existing savings in gold. I'm talking an IRA. I'm talking an old 401k. Did you know that you can convert those into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, actual like gold, tangible gold? Or you can just buy some gold to keep in your safe at home. But first, you got to get educated. Birch Gold's going to send you a free info kit on gold. Just text my name, Larry, to the number 989898. And then, they're going to send you a bunch of free information, a whole kit about owning gold. Again, text Larry to 989898. Do it today. Well, they're all freaking out right now on the media, especially at MSNBC, because Trump is keeping his focus on the people who have broken the law in Washington, D.C. I'm not talking about the murderers, the carjackers, armed robbers. Oh, yeah, he's looking at them too. I'm talking about the corrupt politicians. I'm talking about the people in the deep state, part of the permanent political class, who have corruptly taken over this government despite your vote, despite the will of the American people. And now they're out of their heads about it. Adam Schiff got dragged in front of the cameras at Meet the Press, and you can smell the fear emanating from this guy's body odor. I'm going to show you those clips in a second and eviscerate Kristen Welk, the host of Meet the Press, for, well, basically tossing softball after softball. That's coming up in a second. First, though, take a look at how MSNBC addressed this. First, you see this tweet from Eric Erickson, conservative commentator, radio talk show host. Good guy, but definitely a critic at times of Donald Trump and his policies. Let me just say something. Eric Erickson would never be invited to the table at Morning Joe unless he tweets something or posts something that is critical of Donald Trump. That's how this game is played. And so then the folks at Morning Joe started inventing brand new imaginary MAGA Republicans who were really mad at Trump for going after John Bolton. Does that sound right to you? Yeah, let's watch this segment and then we'll discuss.
I talk to people in MAGA world, and these are not like Paul Ryan Republicans. These are Donald Trump Republicans who said that raid, which unfolded live on your air on Friday, made them uncomfortable, that this seemed like, even for President Trump, this seemed like new territory. Now, important to note that we don't yet know the reason for that search. We have not seen the documents that were behind it. Axios' Mark Caputo has reporting that part of what they are looking for here had to do with the sharing of classified information. And so there may be more to this than we know. There's reporting out there that it goes beyond the book. So we just don't know, but I can.
All right. So let me just break down what we just heard here from this dude at Mike Allen, Axios co-founder, and you can trust him, right? So Mike Allen says that he's been talking to MAGA types, and I'm talking real, true red MAGA types, like red meat. They'll take a bullet for Trump if they have to, MAGA types. And they're really, really concerned that Trump okayed a raid by the FBI on John Bolton's home. This is beyond the pale for them. Name one, Mike. Give us one name. Give us one name. Oh, you can't name them. We're just going to have to trust you on this. Does anyone believe this? Oh, and then, by the way, he then had to caveat everything that he just said. I know some MAGA types are really angry that Trump has done this. That being said, we have to say that we don't know that Trump actually ordered this. In fact, Trump has said that he didn't know anything about this. We also have to say that we have no idea why the FBI was there, what they were looking for, and whether this has anything to do with what John Bolton has done, or maybe it's a sharing of classified information, and John Bolton was the recipient of it, but he didn't do anything. It's like he's got all these caveats, but it all has to start with, I've talked to MAGA people, and they're really angry about what we don't know anything about. But is this news? Is this supposed to be news? We don't know what's going on, but I've talked to unnamed MAGA people who are really mad about it. There you go. Once again, there's a divide in MAGA world. Trump's losing his base, you guys. It's over this time. We really mean it. We swear. I just interviewed this morning on my radio show a former U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia who is a big Trump supporter and not a huge fan of John Bolton. And I said, what do you think is going on here? And he said, we don't know. We don't know when we should stop speculating and we should stop. He said, you know what? There could have been a warrant to search John Bolton's home and his office for evidence related to a crime somebody else committed. And this has nothing to do with anything John Bolton had done. That happens a lot. So maybe we should just downshift a little bit and not go off on wild speculations, right? We really shouldn't do that. Which means, of course, at Morning Joe, we're going to continue to wildly speculate.
This raid on Ambassador Bolton's home is deeply dangerous, and it comes, much like the threats with Chris Christie, it comes after President Trump was very critical of Bolton just last week. Mm-hmm. Bolton was out there criticizing the Alaska summit with Vladimir Putin. Trump hit back on Truth Social repeatedly, and whether an order was given from the White House or not, it's out there. Yeah. He's not happy with Bolton. It's easy for federal officials to take their cues from that. And then on Friday, we see this raid.
Well, that's what the Wall Street Journal editorial page said, Meek. It said they knew what the president wanted, and so they did it.
It certainly matches the pattern of his promises during the campaign.
Oh, can we watch this together again? I do love these two so much. And it really warms my heart when they're not pretending like they're in Washington, D.C. By sitting in their studio next to their garage in Tampa, Florida, like they do most of the time with a pretend screen behind them. No, this time they're pretending to be in Washington, D.C. while sitting in a studio in New York. They're precious, aren't they? Joe and Mika. But let's just break down what we just heard. The language that they use on these segments are always so remarkable. If you actually listen to the words they use, they reveal to you how stupid and duplicitous they are. And there's nothing better in the media for a brand like MS Now to maintain than the combination of stupid and deceptive. Not only are we dumb, but we also lie. MS Now.
This raid on Ambassador Bolton's home is deeply dangerous, and it comes, much like the threats with Chris Christie, it comes after President Trump was very critical of Bolton just last week.
Now, do you remember when Joe Biden's FBI raided Donald Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago? Did they say that this was dangerous? at any point. No, it was just, it was righteous. It was about time is what it was. And by the way, when the FBI went and raided Mar-a-Lago, the home of a former president, not a former national security advisor, not a former ambassador to the United Nations. No, a former president's home was raided by the FBI. And I'm pretty sure it came right on the heels of Joe Biden saying something really negative and critical of Donald Trump. In fact, it came not too long after Joe Biden actually declared MAGA Republicans a very threat to this democracy. But I don't remember that analysis at the Morning Joe table. Do you? Again, it's almost like they lie. Almost.
Bolton was out there criticizing the Alaska summit with Vladimir Putin. Trump hit back on Truth Social repeatedly. And whether an order was given from the White House or not, it's out there.
Yeah.
He's not happy with Bolton. It's easy for federal officials to take their cues from that. And then on Friday, we see this raid.
There you go. So that's news. This is what is news on this network now. Whether he gave the order or not, it's out there. He put his cues out there, and the FBI knew exactly what he wanted them to do. Well, guys, it's over. I think you should expect impeachment proceedings, maybe even tar and feathering. Maybe if they really get angry, they might actually try to arrest Donald Trump for crimes from 30 years ago and put him on trial and I already did that. They got nothing. This is hilarious. By the way, at no point in any of these conversations about what happened at John Bolton's home does anybody on MSNBC lean forward and say, you know, guys, for a judge to issue a search warrant to the FBI on somebody's home, the FBI had to produce some evidence. Now, during the Russian collusion hoax, the FBI presented false evidence. They've already admitted that. They admitted that what they presented to the FISA court was wrong. It's not even deniable at this point. So either the FBI presented false evidence, just like they did against Donald Trump in the Russian collusion hoax, or hear me out, maybe there's enough evidence to support a search of John Bolton's home and office. Not one person on MSNBC all weekend long said that plainly truthful, factual, and sane, rational statement that I just made. Meanwhile, over on the mothership, NBC News, we had Vice President J.D. Vance getting grilled by Kristen Welker. And, well, he addressed the John Bolton question like a sane, sober, logical, measured, conservative human being.
What I can tell you is that unlike the Biden DOJ and the Biden FBI, our law enforcement agencies are going to be driven by law and not by politics. And so if we think that Ambassador Bolton has committed a crime, of course, eventually prosecutions will come. But as you know, Kristen, this is all part of gathering evidence, trying to understand something that we're worried about. And of course, I'll let the FBI comment on the next stage of the investigation.
What's at the root of this? Is this about classified documents?
Well, again, I'll let the FBI speak to that. Classified documents are certainly part of it, but I think that there's a broad concern about Ambassador Bolton. They're going to look into it. And like I said, if there's no crime here, we're not going to prosecute it. If there is a crime here, of course, Ambassador Bolton will get his day in court. That's how it should be. But again, our focus here is on, did he break the law? Did he commit crimes against the American people? If so, then he deserves to be prosecuted.
As you know, Ambassador Bolton is a frequent critic of President Trump's. He's also on Kash Patel's enemies list. The administration has already revoked his security clearance, Secret Service protection. Is Ambassador Bolton being targeted because he's a critic of President Trump?
No, not at all. And in fact, if we were trying to do that, we would just throw out prosecutions willy-nilly like the Biden administration DOJ did, prosecutions that later got thrown out in court. If we bring a case, and of course, we haven't done that yet. The Department of Justice has not done that yet. We are investigating Ambassador Bolton, but if they ultimately bring a case, it will be because they determine that he has broken the law. We're going to be careful about that. We're going to be deliberate about that because we don't think that we should throw people, even if they disagree with us politically, maybe especially if they disagree with us politically. You shouldn't throw people willy-nilly in prison. You should let the law drive these determinations, and that's what we're doing.
But you know, a lot of people have already looked at this and said this looks a lot like retribution. Is this retribution?
Well, who has said it looks a lot like retribution, Kristen? A lot of people who tried to throw Donald Trump in prison for completely fake charges that were later thrown out by multiple different courts. I suspect that if the media and the American people let this case actually unfold, if they let the investigation unfold as it's currently doing, they're going to find out that what we're doing is being very deliberate and being very driven by the national interest and by the law here. And that's as it should be.
Good for JD Vance. Good for Vice President Vance. Frequent viewers of this program will see exactly what JD Vance did there, and the fact that he picked up on something that we point out all the time when people like Kristen Welker are asking the questions. Listen to the question again.
You know, a lot of people have already looked at this and said, this looks a lot like retribution. Is this retribution?
We get this question a lot, don't we? It's always framed within, you know, there are a lot of people out there who are saying, or some people would say, or critics might suggest, da 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 da. And what do? We always pause it right there, just like we do, and say, what do you mean a lot of people? Who are a lot of people? You mean you and your buddies in the production offices there at NBC News, your executives, maybe your co-producers on the show, or is it just your buddies over at the White House Correspondents Association? When you say a lot of people, are there the people in your fantasy football league? Is this a discussion as you're figuring out who you're going to draft first, wide receivers or running backs? It's such a stupid, asinine trick that these reporters do, and he was all over it. I think he watches the show. Do you think he watches the show? I think he might.
Well, who has said it looks a lot like retribution?
Who says that, Kristen? Frankly, I don't give a damn, Margaret. All right, so that's the exchange with this sober, intelligent, professional, accomplished man, one heartbeat away from the presidency, Vice President JD Vance. To counter his message, his facts, his logic, his reasoning, NBC News decided to bring up this guy, Adam Schiff. Because when Adam Schiff was on Meet the Press and CNN and ABC's This Week and CNN's Face the Nation and any other cable network or camera that got turned on at any moment within a 50-yard radius of this dude, he'd be jumping in front of the camera saying, I know for a fact that Donald Trump is guilty of Russian collusion and high crimes and misdemeanors. I've seen the evidence. I can't tell you the evidence because I'm the ranking member or the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. It's all top secrets. It's all very classified, but I've seen it, and I'm telling you he's guilty. And of course, there wasn't any evidence. He was lying. He lied and lied and lied and lied and lied about Russian collusion. So, of course, NBC News invites him on to talk about this story because he's a liar. They didn't have him on because he's a senator. They didn't have him on because he's a former chairman of the Intelligence Committee. They didn't have him on to give his expert partisan Democrat opinion about John Bolton and Donald Trump. They had him on because they wanted him to lie. Why else would you have him on? He's a liar. That's why you invite liars onto your show. Hey, excuse me, could you get Senator Liar over here? We need some lies. Yes, sir. He'll be right over. Send him the car. So here's how the question and answer went with about John Bolton.
I search a former national security advisor and ambassador at John Bolton's home and office. I did have the opportunity to ask the vice president about this. He rejects the idea that this is political retribution. Do you believe that people need to let this investigation play out and not get ahead of it at this point?
I think this is clearly retribution. I mean, the idea that they just picked John Bolton, a prominent critic of the president, at random. What the president is trying to do here is very systemic and systematic, and that is anyone who stands up to the president, anyone who criticizes the president, anyone who says anything adverse to the president's interests gets the full weight of the federal government brought down on them. So if you're John Bolton, you get your home seized. If you're on the Federal Reserve and you won't lower interest rates, you get threatened with prosecution or with firing. If you're a general, like the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, and you issue a report, or the agency does, casting doubt on the success of U.S. military strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, you get fired. If you are the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics and you give a jobs report that the president doesn't like, you get fired. They're essentially going after any critic, any opposition in an effort to intimidate them. That's what this is about. It's not about Bolton per se. It's about anyone else that, like Bolton, might stand up to the president.
Wow, he's just body slamming and then setting on fire with gasoline and matches and a blowtorch straw men left and right. This is not just your typical straw man moment, and that's saying something for Adam Schiff or for Democrats. Let's break it down real fast.
I think this is clearly retribution. I mean, the idea that what they just picked John Bolton, a prominent critic of the president, at random.
No one is suggesting that they picked John Bolton at random. J.D. Vance didn't say that they picked John Bolton at random. The FBI certainly didn't. No, they didn't just pick him at random. Clearly, there's reason to get this search warrant. As I just mentioned, a judge had to authorize it by seeing new evidence from the FBI that there was a reason to go in and search his premises. So no one was picked at random. But thanks for propping up that straw man. What else you got?
What the president is trying to do here is very systemic.
Adam Schiff knows what Donald Trump is trying to do. Who believes that? Who believes that Adam Schiff has a good handle on what Donald Trump is trying to do on any given moment in any given day? Because he's been so right about Donald Trump up until now. Can we play the clips of him saying that Donald Trump would never win the presidency, or that he would be spending the rest of his life in jail, behind bars, or all those other things? Because he's always so right about Donald Trump.
And systematic, and that is anyone who stands up to the president, anyone who criticizes the president, anyone who says anything adverse to the president's interests gets the full weight of the federal government brought down on them.
You know, I might start cheating on my taxes, or maybe like, going on some sort of international crime spree. Yet at the same time, change the content of this program to be hypercritical of Donald Trump. I feel like if you are critical of Donald Trump and you break federal law, and you get into trouble for breaking that federal law, you have a built-in defense. Guys like this are going to come out and defend you. Joe Scarborough will defend you. You can get whoever you want. It doesn't matter. It's like, hey, it looks like Larry O'Connor is guilty of tax fraud, and he robbed a bank, and he just hijacked an airplane. Yeah, but we know what's really going on here. Haven't you seen Larry's show recently? He's been really critical of Donald Trump. So this is all bull, right? I mean, he's probably pretty innocent. What is this equivocation where if you are, listen to the litany that he puts out here. If you're critical of Donald Trump, you should be free of any circumstances if you break the law or if you're incompetent in your job. That's the Adam Schiff standard now.
So if you're John Bolton, you get your home seized. If you're
John Bolton, you get your home seized. Now, if you're supportive of Donald Trump, and you're suspected of having classified information or sharing classified information or making money from a foreign government without registering as a foreign lobbyist and violating the FARA regulations, well, then you should be prosecuted if you're supportive of Donald Trump. But if you do all of those things, or you're suspected of doing all those things, and you're a critic like John Bolton, well, it's just lawfare.
The Federal Reserve, and you won't lower interest rates, you get threatened with prosecution or with firing.
Yeah. So again, I don't believe that the chair of the Fed has been threatened with prosecution. He has been threatened with firing, but not because of the interest rate. It's because he's well over budget for a $2 billion or $3 billion renovation of the federal building. There is a member of the board of governors of the Federal Reserve who is being investigated for mortgage fraud. More on that in a minute, Adam Schiff. So again, you break the law. If you're on the wrong side of Donald Trump, that's your defense. You can go in front of a jury in D.C. and say, listen, Trump doesn't like me. Not guilty. That's the world we're living in here.
If you're a general, like the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, and you issue a report, or the agency does, casting doubt on the success of U.S. military strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities.
He didn't get fired because he issued the report. He's such a liar. How do we know about this report? This classified top secret report from the Defense Intelligence Agency that preliminary suggested that there wasn't much damage done to the Iran nuclear program. How do we know about it? Because it was leaked. It was leaked to CNN and the New York Times. He didn't get fired because he issued the report, you lying jackass. He got fired because either he leaked it or somebody on his team leaked it that he's responsible for. That's called accountability for breaking the law. That was an illegal leak, but you know about illegal leaks, don't you, Adam Schiff? All right, let's move on to the next question, because Kristen Welker now gets really tough on him because, as you know, he's in trouble. He's being investigated for mortgage fraud. Take a listen to this question and answer, and I'm going to show you why Kristen Welker commits absolute journalistic malpractice the way she poses this question. Listen to the question.
You have that one, Larry?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I got so excited to play this. Here we go.
Adam Schiff has engaged in a sustained pattern of possible mortgage fraud. Adam Schiff said that his primary residence was in Maryland to get a cheaper mortgage and rip off America when he must live in California because he was a congressman from California. Now, the government mortgage company, Fannie Mae, says you're, quote, engaged in a sustained pattern of possible occupancy misrepresentation on several loans. Are these allegations true? How do you respond to them?
They're patently false. And the president knows it, in the housing agency, president's person, Pulte, knows it. He's
all right. You don't even need to hear his answer because it doesn't matter. Of course, he's going to deny it, but he was given such a great question to be able to tee off of. You just heard how she set it up. Listen to the question itself for a minute.
Engaged in a sustained pattern of possible occupancy misrepresentation on several loans. Are these allegations true? How do you respond to them?
Are these allegations true? Well, what the do you think he's going to say? Are these allegations true? Yes, Kristen, my God, please stop. I can't stand this withering pressure and maintain sustained. Oh, that's intense questioning that you're putting me through. What is this, the fourth degree? What are we in Gitmo right now? Are you going to waterboard me? Okay, fine, I confess. Yes, it's true. Are you kidding me? Are these allegations true? That's not how you ask a question. She's a professional journalist. She makes millions of dollars on Meet the Press. She's been tapped to be the moderator at presidential and vice presidential debates in the past. And that's how she asks a question? Okay, I'm no professional. I didn't get a journalism degree. I don't make millions of dollars like Kristen Welker. I don't make millions of dollars, period. Could I put forth my, Kristen, will you listen to me? I've got Adam Schiff in front of me, and I know the facts of the matter. Let me ask the question. Here's how you ask the question. And Adam Schiff, or your people, if you're watching this, because somebody might ask the question someday. Someday they may ask this question. So here, we're going to give you a hint. You can get ready with your answer. I'd love to see what you come up with. Senator Schiff, as you know, it's literally impossible to have two primary residences. It's just impossible. And yet you claimed under penalty of perjury on your mortgage application for your Maryland home that was your primary residence. And at the same time, you claimed under penalty of perjury that your California townhouse was also your primary home. So can you please explain to me how that isn't fraud? That's how you ask the question, Kristen Welker. But no, they're much more upset about Donald Trump and his retribution that is completely based on nothing. There's no evidence to suggest that there's any retribution anywhere. They're very upset for John Bolton. They're very upset for Adam Schiff. They're doing whatever they can to protect them under the guise of journalism and asking questions. And you deserve better, frankly. We'll continue to watch these stories, the investigation into John Bolton, the investigation into Adam Schiff, and anyone else, and whether they're supportive of Donald Trump or not, we'll give you the details of it as they unfold. And we're not going to be in the tank for anyone. Certainly not a sleazebag like Adam Schiff. Tom Homan is, oh, let me start that over again. Sorry. Hold on. I got to look at my notes. Why do I need notes? Ah, yes. All right. Everybody's favorite Maryland man, Kilmer Abrego Garcia, is in deep shit again, or shall we say caca? Sure. And his lawyer might well have just put the final nail in his coffin. His lawyer is no bueno. We're going to give you those details and more coming up right now. First, though, we start with Tom Homan, who talked about not only Mr. Abrego Garcia, but also other illegal immigrants who are facing deportation right now because, you know, that's what Trump was elected to do, and that's what this man was hired to do.
Thanks for joining us tonight. Obviously, a fast-moving case. Abrego Garcia's lawyer says the government is, quote, weaponizing the immigration system against him. My question is, what's your response to accusations that you're weaponizing the immigration system, and will, in fact, Abrego Garcia soon be heading to Uganda?
He is absolutely going to be deported from this country. He's not going to walk the streets of this nation. So he can enjoy the little time he has with his family. And for the person who says we're not going to separate family, well, his family can go with him because he's leaving. He's going to be deported. Look, he's a criminal alien. He's a member of MS-13, which is now a designated terrorist. He's a white beater. He's a human trafficker. He's been indicted for human trafficking and alien smuggling. He's a bad person. He's not going to be here. He's been order removed twice. Order removed by 2 different federal judges. He's going to leave this country in the very near future, and his family can go with him. I can't see who was talking before the sound bites, but whoever said we're taking advantage of broken immigration system, what do they do? What do those people do the last 4 years about this broken immigration system? They let 10.5 million people cross that border. Sex trafficking women and children, all-time high. Overdose deaths of fentanyl, all-time high. Number of terrorists, all-time high. They didn't do anything to fix it. President Trump is keeping his promise to American people to enforce the law, and that's what we're doing. We're making this country safer every day by removing people like Abrego Garcia.
All right, now let's just repack this story for you because you may have forgotten. You remember the Maryland man, Kilmer Abrego Garcia. He was apprehended. He was shipped back to his home country of El Salvador. He became a cause celeb. Chris Van Hollen, all these other Democrats went down there to visit him. They demanded that he be returned, even though there was a standing deportation order on him. Problem is that deportation order did say that the one place you can't send him is to El Salvador. Why? Oh, because he's a gang member, and he's afraid that the rival gang will murder him if he goes to El Salvador. He convinced a judge of that. Of course, that was years ago. I mean, seriously, there's been a standing order for like 8 years for him to be deported. And, 6 years, 2019 is when it was first put in. And the gang that he's afraid of no longer exists in El Salvador. So all he's got to do is get in front of a judge. They can amend that. But it's fine. The federal government said, okay, fine, we'll bring him back. He's been in Tennessee, having to answer to criminal charges of human trafficking, because it appears as though most of the time he spent as a Maryland man, he was helping MS-13 import more gang members into this country. And he just got released on Friday. And now, as you can see on the chyron there, lower third of the screen for Fox News, he's now set to be sent to Uganda. He should have taken the deal and gone to Costa Rica. I think he had a chance to do that. But Democrats in this country, they convinced him to come back home because they want to make a martyr out of him. They are dying for their George Floyd moment. And so they convinced this guy to come here. Now he's going to Uganda, and they're freaking out. He's like, I could have been at Costa Rica. Now, so now you've got the table set, right? That was Friday. Now this morning, they held a big rally for him. Here's what the scene was like in Baltimore, Maryland, because he's a Maryland man. He was heading to ICE to go report in, just check in, sign a form, and then he'd go back and hang out with his Maryland wife and eat some crabs and Old Bay French fries, right? Here's what the scene was like as hold on, is he Jewish? Is he Orthodox? Is he an Orthodox? Is that a shofar? Is that like a rabbi blowing the shofar so that everybody can gather and pray? I mean, if he is, great. I had no idea. But this may put him at odds with the pro-Hamas side of the Democrat party. What's Chris Van Hollen going to do now? Maybe they should deport him to Gaza. All right, well, that was quite a scene. All right, and then he gets up to the microphone and speaks to all of his supporters there. Let's take a listen. And I want to remind you, this guy came to America when he was a teenager, and he has been here for 13 years. He's a Maryland man, don't you know? So let's take a listen to what he has to say, and hopefully you can understand what he has to say through that very thick mid-Atlantic Maryland accent. They say things like, hey, hon, and they say Merland instead of Maryland. Stuff like that. It's a quirky little accent. Let's take a listen.
Un milagro, gracias a Dios y gracias a toda la comunidad.
This was a miracle. Thank you to God, and thank you to the community power.
I'm sorry, wait a second. Is he identifying as a woman now? Is that his new defense? I'm not a gang member. No, I'm transgender. I'm a woman, right? With the Casa shirt. Oh, that's the translator. He doesn't speak English. Maryland man doesn't speak English. He's been here almost half his life. He doesn't speak English. He's using a translator. Although he should think about the transgender thing too. He could be a transgender translator. CASA, by the way, is Casa de Maryland, a radical left-wing group who believes there should be no borders, there should be no immigration. In fact, there are factions of CASA around this country who maintain that the southwest of our nation is actually rightfully the Mexican people's territory. That's who's representing him here. This is the Democrats in Maryland. This is Chris Van Hollen's people.
Y por eso quiero decirles las gracias a cada uno de ustedes que marcharon, levantaron sus voces y oraron y nunca dejaron de creer y luchar por mi libertad.
I can hear the Maryland accent, though. I'll give him that, because that's not your typical Salvadoran sound. So he has his rally. He's got his translator. They're all going nuts. He goes in to check, and there's a big check. And by the way, did you see his wife standing next to him there? Did you see this? That's the woman standing. Doesn't she look terrified? That's the woman that he used to beat up on. She got a restraining order against him. And now look at her. Look at her. She's like, oh, please. That's what we know what she's praying for there as the shofar's getting blown, as it were. All right, so he goes into the ICE office, checks in, signs his name, and then he doesn't come out. His lawyer comes out, goes to the microphone, and makes this announcement.
My name is Simon Sandoval Motionberg. I'm a partner at the immigration law firm of Murray Osorio PLLC in Maryland, Virginia, and New Jersey, and one of the many attorneys in the legal team that's been representing Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Mr. Abrego Garcia was taken into custody by ICE this morning.
I do love that they're chanting shame in English. It's the one thing you hear that's in English over there from this crowd. They were taught to scream shame. That's the lawyer making the announcement. They do the big rally, speaks through his translator, goes in, checks in, cuffs on. And now deportation proceedings can begin. And the idea is that he's supposed to go to Uganda. Now, as you just recently saw, his lawyer there, let's take a look at another video of his lawyer. This is from yesterday when it was learned that he would be shipped off to Uganda. Take a look at this.
It is preposterous that they would send him to Africa, to a country where he doesn't even speak the language, a country with documented human rights violations, when there are so many other options. This family suffered enough. They need to stop trying to separate them. Everything that they've done to Mr. Abrego Garcia, they've done it for one reason, which is that he had the temerity to exercise his constitutional rights. So the government's decided to use the immigration system to punish him by sending him to Uganda. We're going to fight tooth and nail against any form of deportation to Uganda, South Sudan, Libya, any other, completely ridiculous country that they can come up.
All right, so let me just break down what you just heard here. They're going to fight him being deported to Uganda or South Sudan or any other ridiculous country. I'll translate that for you. It means they know that he's getting deported. They know they have no case. They know that the law is on the government's side. He'll be deported. The only question is what country he's going to. All right, you could read between the lines. We're going to fight against them deporting him to some country that we don't like, but they're not going to be able to fight the deportation, and they know it. But also, real fast, I don't know if you picked this up. What was the very, very first concern that he had about going? By the way, what's wrong with Uganda? Last I checked, the next mayor of New York is from Uganda. He just took 2 weeks off of the campaign trail to go celebrate his wedding in Uganda. This guy's got some sort of racist or ethnic hatred toward the Ugandans and African. Did you notice that every country he just said is unacceptable is African? What's wrong with Africa, counselor? The hatred and bigotry here, right? But what's the biggest concern about Kilmer Abrego Garcia going to Africa again?
It is preposterous that they would send him to Africa, to a country where he doesn't even speak the language.
So they don't want to send him to a country. It's preposterous to even consider sending him to a country where he does not know the language.
Y desde el primer día, quiero agradecer también a Dios que siempre ha estado conmigo y ha estado dando bendiciones a toda mi familia.
And that's why we demand that he stay here in America, where he also doesn't know the language. You can't make this shit up. Sorry. You can't make it up. By the way, my favorite thing about all of this, it is true. It is 100% true that Kilmer Abrego Garcia does not know the official language in Uganda. But I'm not talking about Swahili. You see, if you look up the official languages of Uganda, it's Swahili and English. So just like America, he doesn't know the native language. All right. I know this gets frustrating, and it's fun to make fun of them because they're so ridiculous and they continue to lose. And so let's just finish things up with a special video that the Trump White House put out after another week's worth of, shall we say, righteous legal activity from your federal Department of Homeland Security. Take a look. There they are, being loaded up into a Coast Guard plane and being sent to other countries, not necessarily the country of their birth or origin. Immigration law, everyone's talking about constitutional rights and just follow the law, immigration law. We just want to make sure that the law and due process, this is due process. This is the legal, prescribed, voted on, passed, and signed into a law by a president procedure for deporting criminal illegal aliens in this country. If we can get you back to your home, great. If there's a problem getting you back to your home, we can deport you to any country we have cooperation with. The headline on this video from the White House, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So, did you vote for this? Is this what you voted for? No, really, is it? Let us know in the comments and in the chat. It's kind of what I voted for. We've got an update on the president's crackdown on crime in the nation's capital. Some stunning numbers and real results coming up here. But that's only if you're watching our show will you get that information. If you're watching MSNBC or some of the other cable networks, you're getting a different story. You're getting a different narrative. Apparently, President Trump, wanting to enforce our laws and make our cities cleaner and safer and less crime-ridden, apparently, it's all because the mayors of those cities are Black. You see, to protect the lives and the lifestyle and the quality of life of Black Americans living in our major cities right now makes you a racist. So says this guy. And let me tell you something. Al Sharpton, he knows a racist when he sees one. Like every morning when he goes into the bathroom and he looks above his sink.
It's a lot talking about how I've condemned a lot of what was going on in Chicago back in the day and other points. It's not about crime. But when you have this consistent pattern that you're only going after black mayors, now you're going to fight Westmore. I mean, the pattern here is clear, particularly when the data shows that crime is down in these cities. And you should be saying, why can't I work with the mayors? The wise political strategy is to start picking off some of these mayors that could say, Trump's not that bad, we're working together. Right. He doesn't want that. And it's clear he's doing it at the expense of people.
There you go. This is at the expense of people, most specifically black people. These are all cities where the mayors are black and brown. Although actually one of the mayors who is black up in New York, his name is Eric Adams, he did in fact do exactly what the good Reverend Al suggested. In fact, isn't that the city they're sitting in at that very moment? Eric Adams said, yeah, I welcome cooperation with the federal government. We got to fix this crime problem that Joe Biden inflicted on our city. Crime is down. Crime is down from 2023 and 2022, but it's not down from any normal perspective in any of these cities. And by the way, Reverend Al, it's not Trump's fault that these cities elect black or brown mayors, and it's not our fault or Trump's fault that those so-called black and brown mayors happen to be asleep at the switch as their cities spiral into a death cult of murder and carjacking and mayhem. But no, if the mayors are black, well, clearly it's because Trump is racist. He mentioned Westmore, the governor of Maryland, who is trying to out Gavin Newsom on the fighting with Trump on social media. It's sad. It's pathetic. He went after Trump over the weekend and challenged him to come walk the streets of Maryland. Trump replied and said, oh, you mean Baltimore, the fourth most dangerous city in the country? Tell you what, clean up the city and then maybe I'll walk the streets with you. So here was Westmore, of course, running for president on Morning Joe today. And take a listen carefully because he's going to reveal something that I think we'll all be able to see through and figure out pretty quickly.
First, I just want to ask you just in general, what historically has been Baltimore's greatest challenge? Why has Baltimore had a crime problem over the past 3-4 decades?
Hold on. I'm sorry. I've been trying so hard to let these clips play out and then comment afterwards. So I'm going to let you finish, Wes. But think about that question for a second. Just think about that question for a second. God, what are the challenges in Baltimore where you've just struggled so much with violent crime over the last 3-4 decades? Decades. I believe the last Republican mayor of Baltimore was 70 years ago. I could be wrong. Fact check me. I assure you, the last 3 or 4 decades, 100%. It's been nothing but Democrats. Why has it been such a problem for 3 or 4 decades? And now, of course, Westmore is going to blame Ronald Reagan, probably. All right, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. It's just the insane to even have to articulate that question and pretend like you're being thoughtful and circumspect. Gee willikers, it's been tough for you for 40 years now. What seems to be the problem?
Baltimore had a crime problem over the past 3-4 decades.
Well, I think oftentimes Baltimore's had a neglect problem. And I think about Baltimore used to be a city of 920,000 people. Baltimore is now a city of just under 600,000. In fact, if you look at the past few decades, Baltimore's had one of the most precipitous drops in population that we have seen in our country, with the exception of Cleveland and Detroit. But let's also remember this. There's a legacy of Baltimore.
All right, now understand something. All these apologists like Reverend Al and Westmore himself and a lot of other people saying things are so much better now. Crime is dropping. Crime is dropping. Even places like Baltimore. Westmore is trying to do a victory lap saying that certain statistics of crime in Baltimore have dropped over the last 2 years since he's been governor, right? But did you hear that data point? Okay, so understand. They keep saying, hey, crime's going down. Crime's getting better. Crime is dropping. in Baltimore. Now listen to this again.
You know, and I think about Baltimore used to be a city of 920,000 people. Baltimore is now a city of just under 600,000. In fact, if you look at the past few decades, Baltimore's had one of the most precipitous drops in population that we have seen. And
they've lost a third of their population. They've gone from 900 plus thousand to just over 600,000 in the last several years. And crime's gotten better. Okay, so let me do the math here. If you've lost a third of your population, if your crime is not down by at least a third, then it's actually increasing on a per capita basis, number one. Number two, clearly crime's going to get better when a third of your people leave because there are fewer people to victimize. Or maybe the criminals have left because there's no more money to be had burglaring people. Gosh, we're all done. Well, they have legalized pot in Maryland. So maybe the criminals, drug dealers have moved on to other states where it's more lucrative. So he's lamenting the fact that they've lost a third of their population in the city of Baltimore, yet at the same time doing some hollow victory lap that crime is down. Hell, I mean, that's a formula for success in any city, I think. What an absolute moron. I'm told that this is the front runner for the nomination. Wonder why. The racial accusations continued. I mean, just take a look at this brilliant panel over the weekend on MSNBC. The gentleman in the middle is literally the least popular mayor in America, even worse than Eric Adams in New York. He is the mayor of Chicago. And listen to what he says to the good people of that fair city in the wake of Donald Trump's suggestion that maybe Chicago should be next after Washington, D.C.
And so, you know, look, we're going to remain firm. We'll take legal action. But the people of this city are accustomed to rising up against tyranny. And if that's necessary, I believe that the people of Chicago will stand firm alongside of me as I work every single day to protect the people of this city.
I'm sorry. The people of Chicago are used to rising up against tyranny. What, you mean Rahm Emanuel? Did I miss this? I'm from the Midwest originally, and I don't remember learning about Chicago's long history of rising up against tyranny. They were part of the revolution. What tyranny did they rise up against? I mean, yes, they struggled. Maybe it's the Bears' offensive scheme they don't like. The ownership of the Tribune? What tyranny is in Chicago? I mean, other than the pizzas they make you eat. But here he is trying to tell his citizens he's the mayor of the city. Maybe he's talking about the Obama Presidential Center. That is tyrannical looking. Maybe that's what they should rise up against. He's the mayor of the city. He's in charge of the police force. He's in charge of public safety. And he's calling on the people of his city to rise up against the federal government and the Trump administration. Listen.
And so, you know, look, we're going to remain firm. We'll take legal action. But the people of this city are accustomed to rising up against tyranny. And if that's necessary, I believe that the people of Chicago will stand firm.
Is that a threat? If it's necessary, the people of Chicago will stand firm and rise up against tyranny. They are just, their secession obsession, which goes all the way back to the Democrats in the Civil War, runs so deep in their blood. They just bathe themselves in this idea that they're revolutionaries of some sort. Meanwhile, I mean, there is tyranny in the streets. It's the gangs that everyone's terrified of in Chicago that he should probably be focusing on. But this is what weekend political analysis looks like on MSNBC. Let's tune away because you've had enough of that. Let's actually look at the success that Donald Trump and the administration has had in Washington, D.C. in just under 2 weeks since the president announced a crackdown on crime in your nation's capital. Here's the U.S. Attorney for D.C., Judge Jeanine Pirro, this morning.
The president, and I just spoke to him, he will be signing this shortly. This is when all of the problems started. If you think about what is going on in this country, it is when this movement started to reduce and eliminate cash bail that all the trouble started. So here in D.C., we've got defendants who are committing violent crimes who are being released out onto the streets. They are reoffending, and they're reoffending again. And this is where the trouble begins. The public is not safe. When violent criminals repeatedly prove to us that they are not a risk that we can tolerate anymore, when they are not put in jail. And in the end, the president is recognizing as part of his Make DC Safe and Beautiful that in order to do that, we've got to get the violent criminals off the street. And the president is literally transforming the safety landscape of Washington, D.C.
All right. So now you just heard Judge Jeanine say this morning that later today, President Trump will be signing an executive order eliminating cashless bail. And that's exactly what he did just about 90 minutes ago from when we went live here on this program. Here's the scene in the Oval Office.
These are a key driver of the disorder we see on city streets all over America. Catch and release system allows criminals to keep going back out onto the street and reoffending. What this executive order does, it charges your attorney general with identifying jurisdictions all over the country that have cashless bail policies, and then it withholds or revokes federal funds and grants that are flowing to those jurisdictions to ensure that we're only supporting the people who have reasonable common sense policies around crime.
So what area does it cover?
Potentially anywhere that has a cashless bail policy. So some of the largest cities, some of the most left-wing states in America
Almost
have adopted.
all of them, right?
Illinois would be a great example of that, sir.
Oh, they have a great cashless bail. You don't even have to go to court sometimes. No, Illinois, I love that state. It's a great state, but it's run so badly by Pritzker. They threw him out of the family business and he becomes governor. Now he wants to run for president. I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, we'll sign right here, right?
Sir.
So important. And this isn't Republican, Democrat. This is, and by the way, most Democrats agree with us. But this is just, we got to bring our country back. Okay? That's a big one.
Also on the issue of cashless bail, sir, this is a DC specific executive order.
All right, now that's also cashless bail in DC, where he has even more executive authority. But understand what this does now. Your tax dollars have been underwriting, supporting, and frankly, bailing out failing cities across this country who have implemented policies that are tantamount to catch and release for criminals, basically right up to murder, where they get arrested for child molestation. They get arrested for sexual battery. They get arrested for grand theft auto. They get arrested for armed robbery, carjacking, you name it. They get arrested. They get processed. They go in front of a judge. The judge sets the court date, but they're not allowed to assign any bail to keep them off the streets. It's a revolving door at your local police station and local courthouse and county jail, and they're right back on the streets to wreak havoc. And actually, I mean, it's like, geez, I've already been arrested. I'm going to be seeing a court. I might as well just shoot my wad, man. I'm going to go and try to do the biggest crime I can. And oftentimes they go out and murder after they've been released on cashless bail. And that's fine. And I know a lot of you are like, if those blue cities want to destroy themselves, let it go. Okay, first of all, we have our fellow Americans living in those cities. And whether they voted for it or not, we should care about them. As human beings, we should care about them. Okay, a lot of the victims, it's like, what do you want the victims, to lose their child in a murder and say, oh, darn, if only I hadn't voted Democrat. I mean, I get it, but please, let's be humans first. If we can stop that bloodshed, if we can stop that mayhem, we should. That's number one. But secondly, on a much more practical place where it might resonate more for you, those cities who are instituting those reckless, destructive, murderous, deadly policies are getting handouts from the federal government and the Justice Department to underwrite their law enforcement, and you're paying for it. You live in South Dakota, you live in Wyoming, you live in Oklahoma, where these kind of laws would never stand. You're still paying for it. You're subsidizing Chicago. You're subsidizing Dallas. You're subsidizing these cities who have these reckless policies. So now the Attorney General can look at these cities and say, okay, yeah, I know the Congress has voted for you to be able to get this money to help assist with your law enforcement. The president has added a string to that money. Happens all the time. This is what the left learned to do so well. This is what we now are doing for the first time. Liberals, Democrats, the left, Barack Obama. Congress would pass a law for education funding. We need more education funding. And Obama says, like, great, we got all this education funding. Now, tell all the schools around the country that they only get the education funding if they do all this woke garbage that I want them to do. And they did. Otherwise, they'd lose their funding. And now Trump's like, oh, is that a thing? Can we do that? Oh, okay. Tell you what. We'll give you all this law enforcement funding. We'll give you all of this education funding. Well, absolutely, you can have that funding. Clean up your act first. Because we're not throwing good money after bad, and we're not going to take money from honest, hardworking, law-abiding American citizens and take that money out of their pocket. They're taxed enough right now, and then give it to you so you can continue destroying your cities with these stupid, reckless, immoral policies. And that's what Trump did today with this executive order. And even beyond that, let's let the Attorney General speak for a moment, because she gave us an exact example why these laws, these policies, these Democrat policies that were framed in the BLM, George Floyd, we have a systemic racist criminal justice system and we have to reimagine law enforcement in this country and we have to defund the police. All these policies came from that mania. And the results, well, Attorney General Bondi explains the results.
His house was burglarized and the defendant got out on cashless bail, went back the next night and burglarized her house again. That's why this is so important. A man got in a fight with another guy. He had a gun. He was let out. Next night, he got out, went back and killed him. So that's why it's so important, President, what you're doing. And thank you for protecting the American flag. And we'll do that without running afoul of the First Amendment.
That's right. Let's just be clear here. There are lives at stake with policies like this. And I say it often on this show, but I know that we get a lot of new viewers and a lot of new subscribers. Some of you are first-time viewers. Subscribe, will you? Because some of the things that we're doing right now in the last 7-8 months under the second Trump term, things like eliminating cashless bail and actually holding criminals after they've been arrested until they can post bond, things like clearing out homeless encampments of criminal vagrants so that they can't live in their own human waste and spread disease. These are lessons that we learned hundreds of years ago. It's called Western civilization. People didn't just come up with this during the Reagan era or when Bush was president. This is not something that just got invented during the Eisenhower era. No. Here in the West, from Europe to the New World, we learned a whole lot about public health and hygiene and not letting people live in their own waste in the streets, and about criminal behavior and about law enforcement and about how best to keep a civil society. We were really, really good at it until we started listening to the left, until we started listening to the progressive, destructive Marxists who have systematically torn down these institutions. And now we're all like, why do we do it like this? Hey, I've got an idea. How about if we arrest a criminal, we actually hold him and keep him from causing more harm and committing more crimes? There must be a way to do that. Yeah, there's a way to do that. We've been doing it for hundreds of years. And now we're riding that ship little by little by little. And as I said, it's only been a little under 2 weeks in Washington, D.C., with a renewed emphasis on law enforcement and policing. And once again, your U.S. Attorney, Jean Pirro, has an update for you.
Hi, everyone. It is Monday, August 25th, and we continue with President Trump's surge to make D.C. safe and beautiful. Our law enforcement partners, along with the local police, made 86 arrests last night. That was a big night. 10 guns were seized off the street, bringing the number of arrests to 1,007 and 111 guns taken off the street. That means 111 guns can't be used in assaulting and killing people. I think the most important part of all this is that today, on August 25th, we are in our 12th day of no homicides. In spite of the fact that we have 101 homicides so far this year, it has been 12 days without one homicide. And I got to tell you, folks, that's big. That's really big. The deterrent effect of all that's going on as a result of the president's move to make D.C. safe and beautiful is literally changing the safety landscape of Washington. This president is making a difference. And I'm telling you that as the prosecutor here, we're putting together the best cases we can to bring those cases into court to get convictions. Have a good day.
I like the hand on the hip at the end. Have a good day indeed. Yes, we are in our 12th day now without a homicide. Since they've been recording these numbers, we have not had a stretch like this in Washington, D.C. in the summer months that has gone this long without a homicide. And Democrats oppose this. The left hates this. Here's the D.C. Police Union this morning with the updated numbers. Robbery down 42%. ADW. What's ADW? Assault with a deadly weapon. Did it. Down 13%. Carjacking down 85%. Car theft down 24%. Violent crime 25%. Property crime 10%. Total crime down 11% in just 2 weeks. Why? Because a deep blue Democrat-run city has had law enforcement ripped away from their control. And that's what happened that quickly. So the question here is, what city is next? Will it be a city like Chicago under J.B. Pritzker and a deep blue electorate? Or maybe, just hear me out here, do you see a partnership coming between a very blue city that is in a very deep red state? See, I think that would be brilliant. The governor of that state reaching out to the federal government and saying, could we get a partnership with the National Guard? Because I've done my best as governor of this state and everything's great elsewhere. But in that city, that little blue island where all the Democrats live and where all the Democrat politicians are in charge, it's a nightmare. So I'm asking for federal assistance. Could we see that happening? Where would you like the next step to go after Washington, D.C.? Let us know in the comments or in the live chat if you're watching us live, and we'll see who wins. All right. Thank you for watching our Monday program today. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share. We'll have all three of our segments today presented a little bit later. And you can, once they're uploaded, you can share those across all your social media platforms as well. And that does a huge thing in helping our show. And once again, go subscribe, leave. And you've been doing it, by the way. Our numbers in audio on Spotify and Apple are growing. We're climbing up the charts, and you're giving us lots of ratings and reviews. We love it. Do it again. It won't take long. It takes like a minute to leave a review and give us a rating, a 5-star rating. I didn't specify that. Thank you for that. Little house cleaning too, by the way. We are live today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. And then this guy goes on vacation for a handful of days. But we do already have a lot of special programming that we're pre-recording for you. So we're still going to have our show. Don't worry about that. We will have a show. Keep your eye on this channel. All right, let's get to your super chats. God's best friend, 2 pounds, says nobody is above a morning home raid. I like that. That flows even better than knowing nobody's above the law. Everybody should get a morning home raid. Fannie Willis's booty. That's a big one. $9.99 super chat. Thank you. Morning, Larry. Great show as usual. Appreciate that. As a non-white American U.S. citizen, I'm here to tell white people, stop being nice to L1Bs. Oh, libs. Sorry. And start speaking up, or America is done and Jesus is king. Amen. Glory. Hallelujah. Thank you for that, Fanny. And that's good advice. I appreciate it. God's best friend with a 2-pound super chat. The political retribution was on November 3rd. That would be a great response. J.D. Vance should have used that. How is this not political retribution? Well, if you didn't notice, Election Day was political retribution. Now you're just seeing the results. Oh, that's good. I'm going to use that, God's best friend. Angela, hi, Angela, with a $5 super chat. Congenital liar pencil neck has the right to remain silent as usual. He's too arrogant to take the advice. He's about to FAFO. Yeah, I think so too. Although I didn't play his whole answer to that open-ended question from Kristen Wilker, but it was so measured and so careful and so nuanced and so lawyerly. He knows he's in trouble, and that's why he didn't flat out deny. God's best friend with a £2 super chat. Send him to Israel. Half my kibbutz are Argentinos. Kibbutz. Oh, yeah, the shofar dude, right? That was a shofar, wasn't it, Kevin?
I don't know.
You've never been to a synagogue?
Nope.
Have you ever seen the musical Godspell? That's
No.
hard to shofar. See, that's how I know. Psychological projectionist with the £2 super chat. In my opinion, Trump is saving black lives in DC every day. Oh, it's not just an opinion. That's just bona fide fact. Under a black mayor, up until 2 weeks ago, we had hit over 100 homicides this year. So that's tracking as in what were we? Probably week 30 of 2025. So 3 murders a day. And now we've gone 12 days without a murder, or we're in our 12th day. I don't want to jinx today. All right. Thank you for that super chat. Thank you for all the super chats, you guys. Great seeing you again. I hope you had a great weekend. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. In the meantime, my name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry.